It's fight week. Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois. Today I'm going to give you my final predictions, including the undercard. I'm also going to be covering the fight on the Pain Game, live from Wembley Stadium, thanks to True Geordie, with the rest of the lads. Madness. I can't wait. It's mind-blowing, but it's happening. I'm just grateful to be part, a small piece of history. 96,000 people. It's just crazy. Not forgetting, Liam Gallagher's going to be performing. Just when you think the show can't get any better. Daniel Dubois is the current IBF heavyweight champion of the world and is looking to defend his belt. Whereas AJ is looking to become a 3-time world champion. So there's a lot at stake. Let's first take a look at the undercard. We'll have Josh Kelly versus late replacement Ishmael Davis. I can't lie, I'm gutted that Josh isn't fighting Liam Smith. I was really looking forward to that fight. Probably more than any of the other fights on the undercard. It would have been a great fight. With Liam's experience fighting at the highest level, and Josh Kelly, who's just so talented, I just really wanted to see how Josh would perform. I just thought it was the perfect fight for Kelly, to see how good he really is. Because previously was thought to be one of the best talents to come out of Britain, and he was tipped for great things, until things all went wrong. And he lost to David Avanese. But anyway, that fight's not happening, and he's now fighting Davis, who's also a great fighter, and coming off a good win against Troy Williams. You've got to give huge respect to Davis for taking the fight on such short notice. I think like a week's notice. I have seen in previous interviews that Davis said he'll take on anyone, and he's about to prove it. You've got to give him huge credit. He seems to be the type of guy that's always in the gym, always ready. Ready for when that phone call rings, ready for the opportunity, and that you've got to love. He's an unbeaten fighter, he's a switch hitter, good mover, good defence, and he's got decent power. Kelly's going to have to be on the ball. Kelly's got the advantage. He's had a full training camp, so he's ready. But late replacements can be a banana skin, because when you've been focused on one fighter, one style, and you get a last minute replacement, it's really hard just to switch to a completely different style. During the camp, you've been visualizing the fighter, dreaming about them, drilling certain things with your coach for that fighter. Just to change last minute is really difficult. Kelly's had his demons and his setbacks, but he's now in a good place. I boxed with him as an amateur on GB, and he was a world-class operator. In tournament boxing, you never know who you're going to fight. So I do think he'll be able to adapt. Kelly and Davis have a mutual opponent in Troy Williams. Both beat Troy, but I would say Kelly done it in better fashion. Davis has nothing to lose and everything to gain. He needs to go out there and grab the bull by the horns. Take the opportunity with both hands. I do see a Josh Kelly win. He had the better amateur pedigree, and I just think he's the more rounded fighter. I think he's just better all round. I think he's too slick and too fast. Unfortunately for Davis, because of the late notice and lack of preparation, he's at a massive disadvantage. So I think Kelly wins on points. Joshua Batti versus Willie Hutson. This one's going to be fireworks. The build-up has been a little bit spicy, to say the least. If there wasn't bad blood before, there certainly is now. The face-off was tense, and Willie's definitely trying to get under Josh's skin. And it's working. But Batti had to work really hard just to keep his cool. He was desperate to kick off and jump across the table. Hutchinson claims that he bashed up Batti in sparring, and it's really starting to annoy Batti. Whether it happened or not, it's working. Sparring. You have good days and you have bad days. I've been there plenty of times. I've had good spars, I've had bad spars. It doesn't really mean anything. It's all part of the preparation. As long as you perform on fight night where it matters, that's all that counts. He keeps bringing it up because he gets a reaction out of Batti, so he's sticking with it. He wants him to lose his cool, frustrate him, especially on fight night, so he loses control, which will play into Hutchinson's hand. They have a mutual opponent in Craig Richards. They both beat Richards, but actually Willie done a better job. He beat him quite convincingly. Batti's the British and Commonwealth light heavyweight champion, and he also got a bronze in the Olympics. He's definitely the more decorated fighter, but Willie Hutchinson is a problem. He's so relaxed, so elusive, and so confident. And he's very explosive. He definitely carries power. Despite a KO defeat to Lennox Clark, he's came back strong. I think he did have weight issues, and he's now moved up. and he's looking better than ever. I think he proved that he's on Boatsi's level when he beat Craig Richards, and I think stylistically he can give Boatsi problems. It's definitely a 50-50 fight, but I do see a win for Boatsi, with the extra experience and also arguably better power. When Hutson fought Craig Richards, he did tire in the middle rounds, so I don't think he's got the best of engine, and that's a problem against Boatsi, because Boatsi will be in his face all the way. So I say a Boatsi stoppage between rounds 6 and 9. Anthony Kaychi versus Josh Warrington. Kaychi is coming off a good win against my old Team GB mate, Joe Cordina. He looked great in that fight. Aggressive come forward style, good punch variety, good defence, and he also showed that he could fight on the front foot and the back foot. And he's also the current IBO and IBF super featherweight champion of the world. We all know what we'll get with Josh Warrington. All action, fast pace, super aggressive style, fan friendly and great to watch. He's a former 2-time world champion, British, European and Commonwealth champion. He's previously beaten the likes of Lee Selby, Carl Frampton, Kiko Martinez, Kid Galahad. Great names on his record. Unfortunately, he's got a lot of miles on the clock. With that aggressive style, he's been in a lot of wars, and he's not on good form. He's only won 1 in his last 5 fights. In his last fight against Lee Woods, he did give Woods all sorts of trouble. With that aggressive come forward style, walking into the fire, he walked onto a big shot, and the fight got stopped. I do think Josh is a great fighter, and it would be silly to count him out. But I do think he's got too many miles on the clock and he's past his best. And I think Kaychi is in his prime and it's his time. So I do see a Kaychi win. I see a win on points. Hamza Shiraz versus Tyler Denny. Hamza, in my opinion, has the potential to be a future star. They call him the British Tommy Hearns. That might be a bit far, he's got a long way to go, but I do see the potential. He has all the ingredients. Power, size, skill, temperament. He's a cold killer. He looked great against Austin Williams. I was there for the 5 versus 5 in Saudi Arabia with the pain game. He answered a lot of questions. He had a crisis, got hurt. He showed a cool head and came through it and stopped Austin Williams. Tyler Denny hasn't always looked like a world beater. He's had 2 defeats. But he's kept grinding away, working hard, taking every opportunity given to him and kept on improving. He's just came off a good win against Felix Cash. And Felix Cash was Team GB, great amateur, and as a professional, one of the top prospects, so it's a great win. Both guys are far from the finished article, but right now, I just think Hamza is the better fighter, putting it simply. I think he's too big and hits too hard. Even his jab puts people over. I think Hamza wins by stoppage. Mark Chamberlain versus Josh Padley. I haven't seen loads of these two. Mark Chamberlain has had 16 fights, 16 wins, and 12 KOs. He's definitely got power. He's also got that southpaw advantage. Turki Al-Sheikh definitely likes what he sees because this will be Mark's 3rd time on a Riyadh card. I've got to be honest, I haven't seen a lot of Padley's fights, but what I have seen, I do see a Chamberlain win, a KO win. Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois, the fight we've all been waiting for. This fight is huge. Without stating the obvious, with record-breaking capacity, I mean, the pressure on both guys is just going to be immense. Both fighters have a point to prove. Both have had losses and doubts from the public. Ever since Joshua lost to Andy Ruiz, the public have been critical. And again when he lost to Usyk. But this is nothing new to Joshua. Ever since he won the Olympics in 2012, the eyes have been on him. So he's used to the criticism and the pressure. Similar with Daniel Dubois, ever since 2017 when he turned pro, he's also had a lot of pressure. Because he was tipped as the next heavyweight champion. Because when he came on the scene, everybody put in front of him, he destroyed. Until he came across Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce was also another wrecking ball, who was more mature and more experienced. In that fight, Daniel got an orbital fracture in his first professional defeat by stoppage. And people were saying he quit. And if he did, just as well, because another punch could have been fatal. And he also got stopped off Usyk. And people were again saying he quit. Both guys have been on a rebuild and are both looking in great form. And Daniel Dubois is currently the IBF world champion. Against Big Baby Miller, he showed tremendous heart. because he had to really weather the storm early on, and he came through and stopped Big Baby Miller. But early on in the fight, he did show worrying signs. Frank Warren had to get his dad to the corner because the fight was slipping away. Once he heard his dad in the corner, he was able to turn it around. But there was worrying signs. He needed his dad to give him the confidence and the self-belief, which is worrying when you've got an experienced animal like Anthony Joshua in front of you. And again against Hrgovic, he struggled early on. He was getting nailed with right hands. But he did come through it, weather the storm, and was able to stop Hrgovic. Every fight, he is getting better and more experienced and getting mentally stronger. AJ has been looking great, but the level of opponent also haven't been great, so it's hard really to evaluate where he's at. But at the same time, AJ can only fight who's put in front of him, and he's done his job. They've been good to build his confidence and also keep him active, especially while he's adjusting to a new trainer. It's given him time to gel with Ben Davison while he's working on new things and really build the relationship, rather than just jumping straight in the deep end. Both guys are genetic freaks, both made for sports. Daniel was lucky to have his dad guiding him from an early age. He started boxing at the age of 5. He also excelled at track and field, training at Crystal Palace. AJ was the same, very sporty from an early age. He could have been a sprinter or any sport he turned his hand to. We all know that AJ is the more experienced fighter and has fought at the higher level, and on paper should win. And that's generally the public's perception. There's still questions surrounding AJ about his current form. Is he back to his best? Because the recent opponents haven't answered those questions. Despite Daniel being on great form and having youth on his side, he's still not fought anyone on AJ's level. Can Daniel perform on the big stage? 96,000 people. The ring walk alone will be a challenge. AJ's been here many times before. It's just another day in the office. It's heavyweight boxing. Anything can happen. One mistake by either man and it's game over. One secret weapon that Daniel's got is Don Charles. Don Charles used to train AJ, and it's kind of been kept quiet. I had a good chat with Don Charles in Saudi Arabia for the 5 versus 5. And he's very confident that Daniel Dubois can beat AJ. He says that he knows AJ inside and out, all his strengths and all his weaknesses. Don Charles is a very experienced heavyweight trainer, and since he's been working with Daniel Dubois, I've seen huge improvements, so I've got to give him credit. I also think Ben Davison is a great trainer and has been great for AJ. I love what Ben said. He said when you're working with someone who's achieved amazing things, all you need to do is get them to understand the strengths and the weaknesses. It seems so simple, but it's so important. In life it's important, but especially in boxing. And he also does a lot of video analysis with AJ, which I think is really important, and it seems to suit AJ. And I just think the pair have really gelled. So much to gain and so much to lose for both fighters. If Daniel beats AJ, it gives him legitimacy as a real world champion, as he only became IBF champion because Usyk relinquished the belt, and he was the interim champion. No one could question Daniel if he beats AJ because AJ is a former 2-time world champion. AJ winning, he becomes a 3-time world champion, and proving to the world that he's still that guy. And it also puts him on track to try and become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. AJ losing at this stage in his career could be too big of a mountain to climb. If Daniel loses to AJ, it's a huge setback. But he's still got time on his side because he's still young. Timing is everything in boxing. The right fight, the right trainer, the right experience. And I believe in this fight, it's all about timing. And I believe it's Anthony Joshua's time. I think right now he's in his prime. And I think he's in a great mental place with the perfect trainer. He's too experienced, too intelligent, and carries too much power for Daniel right now. Daniel has serious power. He's a good fighter, but he's not a great fighter yet. By no means is it a full-gone conclusion. It's heavyweight boxing. Anything can happen. But right now, it's just too early for Daniel. I think AJ stops him inside 6 rounds. Don't forget, I will be there live on the Pain Game YouTube channel inside Wembley Stadium, so make sure to tune in. Tell me your predictions. Please like and subscribe and go and watch this video next.